So next up on our agenda is that we have our first Flight Project Development Program Triad going to be talking to you about a case study work that they've been doing. I sent you their slides. So do we have Melanie, Joe, and Karina on?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes.
So if who's going to be driving the slides?
I am. This is Karina.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and bring your slides up. And I'll turn it over to you. And then likewise, everybody, be thinking of questions that we want to I'll clear up the poll here and start thinking about your questions, but I'll turn it over to you, Karina. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Karina Koja, and I am the instrument manager for the Geospace Dynamics constellation. And I belong to the Flight Projects Development Program, and I'm in the Secret Sauce Triad along with Melanie Crespos Ramos, who is the Deputy Program Business Manager for the Earth Sciences Projects Division, and Joey Hickman, we call him Joey, and he is the Financial Manager for the Laser Communications Relay Demonstration. And we have a coach, his name is Joe Stevens, and he is the Program Manager for Science Enabling Technologies for Heliophysics. So our group, we had the pleasure of interviewing Donna Douglas Bradshaw. She is a mother of 5. She is very excited about studying the genealogy of her family. And she is also a leading project scientist for Goddard Space Flight Center. So Donya's been working at Goddard for 29 years. And through her journey, her career journey, it's taken many twists and turns. All of these experiences have been valuable to her. None of them have been in vain. So what we have shown here is a Metro chart, and it's a quick snapshot of her resume. The first phases of her career, she did engineering as well as work being a principal investigator, and she was an experiment manager. And sorry, just to go back, the purple is for project management, the red is for line management, green is for research and development, and yellow is for engineering. So after she did all her work with engineering and working as a principal investigator and experiment manager, she went on to line management as an associate branch head and then a branch head. And after that, she went to systems engineering and followed that with project management. She was the instrument project manager for Atlas, the deputy project manager for Caesar, and the deputy project manager for Lucy, and currently the project manager for Lucy as well. So the reason I wanted to show you her Metro chart is, one, because I think the Metro chart is an amazing graphic of career, but also she made this point several times, and I just wanted to reiterate it. And that's, you can have multiple career paths and have multiple experiences that are all valuable. Learn from them. What you do today and what you've done previously will not dictate what you do in the future. So Donya, as I mentioned before, is the project manager for Lucy. Lucy is a Goddard-led 11-year planetary mission, and it is risk class B. Planetary missions usually have a narrow launch window, and this is true as well for Lucy. Their current launch readiness date is October 2021. So Lucy is going to be the first mission to the Trojan asteroids, and the information, the knowledge that they get from this will revolutionize our knowledge about planetary origins as well as the formations of the solar system.
Karina, sorry, can I interrupt you? We're not seeing the slides change. We're still seeing Donya's career path. Is there a way you can double check that you're presenting? You're probably in full screen mode on your side, but we're not seeing full screen mode. Okay. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't, When I put it in presentation mode, then you guys cannot see it anymore. Let me try this. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go back to the Metro chart so you guys can see it.
We saw that. We just didn't see it go forward from there.
Oh, okay. There must be a lag then. Sorry, guys. Okay. So this map that we have here is not just a map of the United States, but it also shows all of Lucy's partners. So Lucy has 3 instrument providers. It has spacecraft provider, launch vehicle. There's the project investigators. All these partners are located in different parts of the U.S. So an important aspect of a project is taking into account that your project may be spread across the U.S. or it could be worldwide. So in order to be a successful project manager, you need to take this into consideration. Can you see the next slide?
Yes.
Okay. So we asked Danya, how do you build your confidence? And I feel like that the answer that she gave us was quite surprising, but also quite brilliant. So Danya, as we can all relate to, when you start a new project, there may be a level of angst and uncertainty. So what Danya does to break through this barrier is she asks for mentors and coaches. Before she takes on the new project, she requests to her supervisor that they provide her with a well-regarded mentor, one who is experienced in the position that she's taking. And she holds her supervisor accountable for the selection of the mentors, and she feels that we should also do the same. So what you want to look for is you want to look for official mentors, unofficial mentors, and also coaches. So an official mentor, you want to be with somebody you can build a trusting relationship with, someone who is willing to and is in a position to advocate for you. And you want to meet regularly with these mentors. You want to review presentations with them, and you want to review meeting agendas with your mentors. You also want to seek unofficial mentors. And these are mentors that you pick yourself and you personally identify with. And you want it to be diverse so that you can get a full spectrum of perspectives. And with these mentors, you want to have a relationship where you can call them whenever you need to, so you can ask them for advice for certain circumstances or situations. And then you also want to request a coach. And the coach will be someone that you would ask to sit into meetings for you and provide feedback. So you'll find that mentors and coaches are a sounding board and a springboard. They help guide you, and they become a natural advocate for you. And they help lead you to the next position, the next new position. So through this reiterative process, Danya has felt that it has increased her confidence, and she feels that it will increase your confidence as well. So Joey Hickman is going to take over for the presentation, and he will cover Danya's perspective on key leadership and management skills, as well as tips of overcoming challenges.
All right, thank you, Karina. Having a little technical difficulties on my end, so on my end rather, so I don't have a camera to turn on, but I'll do my best to, put some energy into my voice. So basically here, we posed a lot of questions to Danya, and when she addressed a lot of them, she referenced some key leadership and management skills. Project management responsibilities can be taxing on your schedule, depending on the project you support. You may need to be available for meetings during most hours of the day. Take Danya's career path, for example. Atlas was built primarily at Goddard, whereas Lucy, as Karina pointed out, has mission partners all over the country. As a result, working in multiple time zones. She needs to be flexible in that environment, especially in this COVID environment where the days seem even longer and they're packed with more meetings. She's definitely has to be intentional about when she schedules meetings and tag-ups. She does her best to attend the key technical meetings so that she can be directly informed, as opposed to receiving a filtered status through her mission systems engineers or instrument managers. To think strategically One must be aware of what's going on outside your project, as well as, what's going on inside your environment. For example, if your budget overruns or your schedule slips, you can easily impact another mission, and same can happen on their end as well. You must look at decisions strategically and broadly, and don't make them in a bubble. You need to establish relationships with other PMs so that you're informed. The more communication, the better, and it helps you be strategic as well. Your project's environment also plays a huge factor into strategic thinking and decision making. Since Lucy is a planetary mission with a limited launch window, schedule becomes king. With Atlas being an Earth science mission, the schedule was not as critical, and the stakeholders were much more focused on getting that measurement. They were willing to delay the schedule and increase costs to ensure their low risk posture. And risk plays a huge factor when making decisions. It is essential to conduct risk and risk trade benefits whenever you're faced with a tough choice. Danya used the best versus the right decision making process. Right decisions are usually subjective in nature, but the best decisions are usually based on data, risks, and resource constraints. And while going through this process, she definitely mentioned, be sure to leverage your technical resources as much as possible. So next slide, please. All right, so knowing when to drivers delegate is primarily based on the situation and your people. Those of you that have taken the PM and SE training offered by Apple may recognize this chart on the left-hand side. It's the situational leadership model, which shows the ideal team member is both being willing and able to perform at a high level. To those individuals, you typically only need to delegate, but for those on the opposite end of that spectrum, a lot of coaching is usually needed. So as an example on Lucy, there are areas where team members are definitely more challenged by COVID. She's heavily involved with those individuals. A lot of the times they're seeing a lot of schedule erosion, and she's doing the best to keep them on track. Some instrument teams that have high heritage and are doing just fine, she normally delegates those to her DPMs. Early in her assignment on Lucy, she worked with her deputies to create a job jar. She took the Lucy org chart, she blocked it out, and directed areas in which she wanted her team members to focus on. That's usually her best practice, unless something else arises and she may have to make adjustments where needed. So, and lastly, giving critical feedback is also essential. As you encounter challenges, do not look to point fingers or place blame right away. You want to do your best to address performance issues as quickly as possible in a tactful manner. It is always best to give folks the benefit of the doubt so you don't, jump to conclusions right away. So next slide, please. All right, when faced with challenges, you want to stay focused on facts and follow the data. That was her, one of Danya's mantras. The information you have at the point in time will be the basis of the decisions, and the path of your project will eventually go down. Project managers can't be afraid of taking risk or being wrong or changing his or her mind. When you gather more knowledge, awareness, and continue to reassess the decision, a change may be needed. You want to make sure you're asking the right questions and being open as transparent as possible. And again, constant communication to both your team and stakeholders is essential here. Danya brought up a real life example while we, reached the challenging section. It was on the Atlas instrument, and she was able to navigate it successfully. And this was one of her first early project management assignments. So during their instrument level TVAC, one of the lasers had a slab fracture, but it was still able to meet performance requirements. She still was cognizant of the risk of reliability. So she completed some trades, and the issue was still found to be significant. So she created some presentations that addressed multiple solutions. And since the technical performance and reliability were paramount, the stakeholders were willing to delay the launch of ISAT-2. And fortunately for Atlas, they already had the cost reserves on hand, and only the schedule delay was the real concern here. So I'll pass it over to Melanie Crespo Ramos to close this out here.
So a theme that Danya addressed throughout our interview was the importance of a positive work environment, because optimism can have far-reaching positive effects in especially in times such as COVID-19. It creates a high magnitude of communication, collaboration, and coordination, and also a magnitude of trust that allows the team to get the work done even when they're not face to face. And coworkers actually start seeing each other as friends and family. And we've already heard speakers mention how the team, when they have such great relationships, they start seeing each other as friends and family. And Danya mentioned that with the Lucy team. She said that everybody works so well together, and she thinks it's because they have such wonderful relationships that they actually start seeing each other as family and friends. Next slide, please. So Danya focuses on creating a positive work environment. She shelters her team from the ever-changing environment in which her projects operate so they can actually focus on what is important, which is their actual jobs. She is fair. And how is she fair? She mentioned that she rewards and acknowledges her employees. She advocates for them, and she makes sure that they have the necessary tools so they can actually get the job done. She always communicates that we are in this together. She mentions that when there's an issue, maybe someone makes a mistake or something happens, she always stresses that we're in this together, and she's not to blame or point fingers like Joey mentioned earlier on. She always tries to communicate that we're in this together, tries to focus on the next step, and that allows people to actually get over the issue and focus on the next step and what needs to get done. She believes in building relationships by getting to know people, understanding what they're going through. She mentioned you never know what people are going through, so you shouldn't judge or assume, and that's why it's so important for you to have communication with them. She even goes to happy hour with her team, and now that we're in this environment of telework and COVID, they recently held a social distancing gathering. And she mentions that these activities are super important because they maintain relationships and it keeps people motivated. And she believes in giving people opportunities. So hire outside of your inner circle, of your friends, the people you know, and give other people the opportunity. And she stressed that for Lucy, they hired her and they really didn't know her, and they gave her the opportunity. So she would expect us and others to do the same and give other people the opportunity so we can start building new leaders. Next slide, please. It was a privilege for us interviewing Danya and getting to know her leadership style, her beliefs, and her values. We learned so much from her, and we decided to summarize our main takeaways. We've already mentioned these throughout the slides, but we wanted to have it here summarized. So the first one is you can have multiple career paths and have multiple experiences that are valuable, but that's not going to dictate where you will end up in the future. Mentors and coaches are a sounding board and a springboard. Build relationships, build relationships, build relationships, and also maintain them. Be open to hiring your inner circle. Don't be afraid to take risks of being wrong or changing your mind. Know when to drive versus delegate. Rely on the data and experts, and maintain frequent and open communications. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much. Now I guess we open it up for questions.
That's right. So we have some questions in the queue for you. So great job, folks. So you can probably see the questions on Slido, but I will help you out here and read them for you. First question in the queue is, did Danya talk at all as to how she manages work-life balances between a PM as well as a mother of 5?
I can speak to that. I guess. Is my camera on? Let me exit from sharing mode. Okay. So she said this is not something that she excels with. So she kind of gave us a day in the life of Danya, and she wakes up early and she works throughout the whole day. Her children are all older, so she has the opportunity to do that. but she did mention that's not necessarily a strong point for her. Melanie and Joey, did you want to add to that?
No, that basically captured it. Thank you.
Okay. Our next question comes from Norman Phelps. What is the difference between a mentor and a coach, or are these terms interchangeable?
Well, there is a difference. I'm sorry, Melanie or Joey, did you guys want to address that?
You can address if you want to, and if we have anything to add, we'll add it. Go ahead.
Okay. The mentor is more for technical aspects, I would say, of your work. So the mentors are somebody that's, probably been in a position that you've already had, or are in a position that you want to seek in the future. A coach doesn't have to be in a position that you had. They could do something that's completely different than what you do. They're more like a life coach. Things that you want to improve on yourself, you talk with them about. Perhaps you want to be more confident, so you just talk with them about how to be more confident, your skills on that. Or you just want to be a better communicator, then you just work with them on that aspect. But like I said, for the mentors, it's more of a technical take on that.
Okay. Did anybody else have a comment?
No, I think she captured it well.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Our next question comes from Pete Zell, and he makes the comment, the Metro chart is very cool. Where did that method of career path illustration come from?
I don't know the answer to that. It was the first time I ever saw it, and I felt like I had to share it just because I thought it was amazing. I do think that Danya mentioned that the Metro chart was something that has been floating around Goddard, at least for the past couple of years, but I don't know any more than that. Joey or Melanie, do you?
No, her presentation was the first time I was introduced to it, so that was a new term. But like you said, I really like the layout there, and I want to try to use it in my world as well.
Same here. It was the first time I saw it.
Hi, this is Donna. Yes, the Engineering Technology Directorate came up with a large metro map, which showed all of their divisions because they're so big. So they were like 1,100 strong when they started it. And then the divisions started going down to individuals. So the metro map's been around probably 3 or 4 years now.
Great. Thanks for answering that. Our next question comes from Tom Moss. Are there examples of best versus right decisions?
Yeah, this is Joey. I can touch on that. The example that she used specifically actually related to my real life example. Actually, I was on the Atlas team with Danya, so the laser that had that slab fractured, so much of the team and so much of Danya's inside, because that was the one that had the most hours on it. So it was just kind of like the term she used was like Old Faithful. It's just her gut reaction was, let's keep going with it despite this minor fracture. It's still meeting the performance requirements, and let's go with it. But then, after some serious thoughts, and after she, leveraged some of the technical resources, not only on the Atlas team, but especially on EETD at Goddard as well as headquarters. That was when let's use the revised design, and let's pull that one off and replace with a working, fully functioning laser. So.
Great. Thank you. So the next one comes from Andrea Prolon. Was Danya's education a dual degree? Do you know? Just curious, since she has been both a PI and an engineer.
No, it wasn't. And her resume is in the back of our slides for anybody that would like to view it. It's pretty extensive, so we couldn't cover it all.